Originally, I was going to do a video that I was going to title, and I'm still going to do the video in the future, called In Defense of Aspartame. And the reason why is aspartame is not deadly to anybody that doesn't have a rare genetic disease that makes it so they can't digest certain amino acids. But let's get beyond aspartame. Everything in aspartame naturally occurs in food. But beyond aspartame, this video is going to be about carnivore dieters' use of plants. Now, originally carnivore dieters were saying get rid of the dairy, get rid of the plants, and you'll have a healthy lifestyle with just meat. Some were saying just muscle meat, some it was a mix of muscle and organ meat. But for the most part, it was just meat and water was their alleged super cure-all, some meat, water, and salt. Okay, so what happened was, as the carnivore diet expanded to get more people in, people missed the taste of plants. So you have people, now I'm actually doing this video because Frank Tufano accurately said that not enough vegans call out carnivores that aren't him. And he's right. The idea of these carnivore desserts that make use of honey, see, this is the thing. Veganism and the carnivore diet, or carnivory, or whatever you want to say, or carnivorism, are not necessarily diets. What they are is they're eating lifestyles that promote either a 100% plant-based diet or a 100% meat-based diet, although the carnivores change that up on you. The fact of the matter is, most carnivores from the beginning have used herbs and spices. Okay, and I'm going to leave videos to prove that. Now, these herbs and spices, what people don't understand, these so-called anti-nutrients that carnivores talk so much about, and I'm going to be doing a very nice video on, quote, anti-nutrients, are actually what are known as phytonutrients, or phytochemicals. Not all phytochemicals are nutrients, of course, because some of them are poisonous, but phytonutrients like resveratrol, the phytates in beans, these things have health benefits that help to promote things like, well, they turn on your sirtuins, and they turn on your AMPK, and they get things going, and they help reverse the aging process. However, what's interesting is these are the most concentrated forms. Herbs and spices and chocolate and things like this are the most concentrated forms of these things, which is why people like Dr. Greger and Dr. Furman, Joel Furman and Michael Greger, encourage people to eat lots of these things because they're rich in these phytonutrients that help do these things. In fact, there's a whole diet based off of that called the Cert Food diet. Now, my point is, it goes beyond that, because you apparently can be, like how there's junk food vegans, you can apparently be a junk food carnivore. They make use of honey. Now, what's funny is this. I'm not technically a vegan. I follow a 100% plant-based diet, but I am not a vegan. I do utilize honey for medicinal purposes. Honey can be a medicine. Especially in the time of COVID-19, it has been found that taking honey, by Israeli scientists, that taking honey and letting it coat the back of your throat helps to prevent colds and flu in the cold and flu season. However, honey used as a flavoring agent or in food is garbage. It's just sugar, essentially. So even if it's raw honey, if you're overeating raw honey, it's essentially pure glucose, okay? So the fact of the matter is, when you stop using it as a medicine and start using it as a flavoring agent for foods, you're simply you're goosing up the sugar to a point where it's dangerous, and apparently that's okay on the carnivore diet. And this did start, to the best of my knowledge, with Frank Tufano and his chocolate chip cookies and things like that that are not necessarily carnivore. But what happens when the carnivore dieters were caught eating plants? Oh, well, the carnivore diet isn't as closed-minded as the vegan diet, and how vegans say you have to be 100% plant-based, carnivores do not. Carnivores have the idea that you can eat a little bit of everything, and it's fine. So basically the carnivore diet, which is allegedly, you know, the predator diet, the lion diet, the superhuman diet, it's really nothing but it's basically a cleaner version of an American diet, but it's not really clean because it's all meat. You can't base a diet on all meat. Now, a lot of the desserts are actually very similar to Dr. Robert Atkins' recipes or Adele Davis's recipes. I don't think any of these people stole them from them because, of course, Atkins would never put honey on something because Atkins was a his diet promotes health, whereas the carnivore diet, I don't think it actually promotes health. I think it promotes the opposite of health. But the fact of the matter is, Dr. Atkins' diet, it utilized things like aspartame and other sweetening agents like that, although later he did get away from aspartame because he started getting funky with all this holistic hippie crap and started, oh, you want to use sucralose. That was what he was using. And then it was stevia. I don't use stevia. And this is what's funny. As a vegan, I'm not really a vegan. Like I said, I'm a 100% plant-based dieter that does not follow a vegan lifestyle. So what do I use as a sweetening agent? I use aspartame because it's very extremely well researched to be safe, despite what everybody thinks. It's the most well researched artificial sweetener in the world because everybody said it was causing all these diseases that it doesn't cause. So the FDA mandated that it be researched better, showing that it's safe. Whereas these carnivore dieters are utilizing, what are they utilizing? Honey. Honey is bad. Honey is sugar. Honey does have beneficial health benefits in the sense that it does have very minute amounts of antimicrobial agents and things of that nature which do prevent disease, communicable disease, and can prevent cuts from being infected and things of that nature. Now remember, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not a doctor. Okay, unlike the carnivores on here that claim to know how to cure disease, like, what's-her-face, Michaela Peterson, I think her name was, Jordan Peterson's daughter, I'm not claiming to cure disease on my channel. My point is that the level of hypocrisy of carnivore dieters is insane. Why do they add herbs and spices? Why do they add honey? Well, because they miss the taste of fruits and vegetables. That's why. They might not know that, but that's why. Is because they need that flavor that comes from the plants. You see, everybody for the longest time has thought that fat is what flavors food. That's not true. Fat does add unique flavor combinations and things like that depending on the type of fat. So, the thing is, what adds flavor to food? Herbs and spices. If you think Italian food, what do you think? Basil and garlic. If you think Indian food, what do you think? You think curry, you think turmeric, you think, I'm trying to think of other spices, fennel, things of that nature. If you think of, what do you call it, Hispanic food, what do you think? You think cilantro, you think tomatoes. Same thing with Italy, you think tomatoes in Italy. There are these very lively flavors that pop, that come from the plant kingdom. And the reason they're popping is because of the phytochemicals. When you cut the phytochemicals out of your diet, you miss a lot of the flavors. Now there are certain animal foods that are rich in phytochemicals, but obviously not as rich as plants because that's where they're getting them. In fact, omega-3 fatty acids are technically a plant chemical in the sense that they are made by algae, which is not, well, technically algae is not a plant. Algae is, I believe it's classified as a plant-like protist. But the fact of the matter is that, that basically omega-3 fatty acids come from algae, the DHA comes from algae, and it's turned into DHA and EPA, or it's stored in fish and other seafood. But you can get it directly from the algae also, which is actually safer because it doesn't have the mercury and things of that nature. My point is that the hypocrisy of these carnivore dieters with their heavy use of very concentrated amounts of what they term anti-nutrients to flavor their food, and the use of garbage, honey, to sweeten their food, to the point that it no longer becomes health promoting, not that it was to begin with, And look at some of these desserts. You got chocolate chip cookies. You got all sorts of crap. Almost always sweetened with honey. And that's what's hilarious. It's very hilarious to me that these people, sorry, I thought my phone stopped recording for a second, that these people consider vegans to be harming their health by eating plants, when in reality it's the carnivores harming their health by eating nothing but meat and abstaining from plants and putting a little sprinkle of concentrated phytochemically powered flavors onto their foods. Now I also use, and I'm going to make a video about this, I also use MSG in my foods because I like that umami flavor. People hate MSG. They think MSG will kill you. Not the truth. It's glutamic acid with sodium in it. So it's basically just salt and glutamic acid. Or, it comes from glutamine. Okay? My point is that too many people are very stupid about where food comes from, what flavors food. They just don't grasp it. Now, a lot of people, like a lot of vegans, and I use it too, I use it for protein and added B vitamins, nutritional yeast has natural MSG in it, as do a lot of things. My point being is that the hypocrisy of these people saying that vegans have an unhealthy diet because they don't have meat is wrong. However, this is the thing. So carnivore dieters will say, vegans keep saying, well, that person didn't do veganism right and that's why they failed, and that's not true. You can't do veganism right. What about all the carnivore dieters that have failed? What about the fact that most carnivore dieters aren't even carnivores, because that would be impossible. You cannot eat a solid meat-centered diet. You will develop scurvy. And we know this. Now, you can eat the organs of certain animals and things like that, but many people don't do that. What's actually interesting is carnivore dieters always go, why do vegans have to mimic meat with their mock meats? I actually don't eat mock meats, usually. Sometimes I'm having these Impossible burgers and stuff, because I actually do prefer, I like the taste of meat. When I ate meat, I ate a lot of meat. We're going back, it's almost 20 years now since I ate meat. It's probably 18 years I've been a vegetarian, and then another about 10 years I've been a vegan. But my point is that I like meat. You know, vegans, just because you're vegan doesn't mean you became vegan because you don't like meat. I became a 100% plant-based eater, not necessarily a vegan, because I take, you know, I'm not against, you know, laboratory testing and things like that per se. But I didn't become basically, I did not become somebody that eschewed meat for purposes of flavor. I like meat. I eschewed it for the problems it causes with, you know, the whole no humane way to kill an animal after reading Charles Darwin's book, The Expression of Emotions in Humans and Animals. And that's all for this video.